We agree with the directive I mentioned earlier in dealing with this issue, which is two evils. We cannot avoid doing either of them. First, do we fight the rulers by taking up arms, which will result in bloodshed, division, the exploitation of apostates and the intellectual actors who are plotting against these interpersonal conflicts to launch their clever plots among the Ummah. Secondly, either we are patient in the face of the ruler and his tyranny, content ourselves with dawah bil lisan, preaching with words with the aim of maintaining the integrity of the Ummah, even though often our words have no effect at all, and are unable to change the wrongs committed by the ruler. The lesser of the two evils must be the second. This is what is meant by the Prophet's instruction not to open the door to armed action against the rulers, no matter how tyrannical they may be. We limit our actions to dawah with wisdom, good advice, denouncing the evil with the tongue, and refraining from taking up arms, no matter what the circumstances. This is the essence of wisdom explained based on fiqh mudzana balanced understanding. A key principle for a Muslim to adhere to is to remember that the Islamic Sharia is built entirely on the basis of taking the lesser of to harm's akafuad darin. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah was hinting at when he said, indeed, this Islamic Sharia came to produce mashlahat and perfect it, to stop harm and minimize it. It establishes the good of the two good things, and the bad of the two bad things, and it produces the greater of the two benefits by passing over the lesser benefit. And it removes the greater of the two harms, by doing the lesser of the harms. Ma'mu fatwa. This is the scale to be used in all Muslim affairs, especially in this matter. It is a matter that has been explained in many hadiths, in which the Prophet peace and blessings of Allah be upon him advise patience in the face of injustice and to deal with it in the best way possible, by speaking the truth and not resorting to armed resistance. Whoever pays attention to the history of this ummah will find that the use of force to disavow the ruler generally resulted in great harm to the ummah. From the time of Uthman's caliphate to the Battle of Jamal, which had a profound effect on the tendons of this ummah. After that, the Battle of Siffin, followed by the battle against the Qawari, who disavowed Ali and Muawiyah, as well as the Battle of Hussein at Karbala, which led to his martyrdom, and so on. Whoever studies all these internal conflicts will see the wisdom behind the prohibition of denying the evil of the ruler by force of arms. Moreover, he will also be able to see in all these conflicts that those who fight the ruler with the sword, or those who come out against the ruler with weapons, in order to change the evil, actually make other Muslims fall into a worse situation. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyyah said, "The Prophet peace and blessings of Allah be upon him enjoined upon his ummah, that it is obligatory to denounce evil, and that denouncing it will bring about the good that Allah and his messenger love. If the denier's denial results in something that is more unlawful, and angers Allah and his messenger more, then his denial is not permissible. Indeed, Allah scolds and wraths the one who does it." An example of this is the denial of kings and rulers by fighting them, for such actions are actually the source of all evil and fitna until the end of time. If one thinks about what has happened to Islam in the major and minor fitna, he will see that it is the result of neglecting this basic teaching and not having patience with the evil. So those who deny the evil try to remove it, then a greater fitna is born out of it. Indeed, the Messenger of Allah peace and blessings of Allah be upon him saw the greatest evil in Mecca, and he was unable to change it. But when Allah liberated Mecca and it became an Islamic state, he was determined to change the building of the house of Allah and restore it to the foundations laid by Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. But he refrained from doing so even though he was able and powerful to do so for fear of a greater fitna than that, namely, the Quraysh's objection to his action. This was because the Quraysh had only recently converted to Islam, and they had not long left disbelief. That is why the Prophet peace and blessings of Allah be upon him did not allow people to disavow their leaders by force of arms, because that would lead to a greater fitna than the fitna caused by the leader's wrongdoing. Ilam al-Muwakin. It is known that when Musa alayhi salam went to meet his Lord, there was a fitna among his people and they worshipped the calf made by Samiri. Then Harun alayhi salam tried to persuade them to abandon disbelief and return to their original promise, but they ignored him. At that time, Aaron limited himself to changing the evil only with his tongue or with his words, not changing it with his hands, even though he was the successor of Moses to lead his people. When Moses returned home and saw the worship of a calf among his people, Moses was angry with Aaron, because his brother did not use force to change the evil. Aaron explained to his brother the reason behind his non-use of force. Based on his wisdom with his words, "I fear that you will say, 'You have divided the children of Israel.'" Aaron knew that his influence and reputation among the children of Israel was not as strong as Moses. If he were to disavow them by force, it would undoubtedly result in ugliness, division, and killing among the children of Israel. He preferred to be patient and leave the matter alone, so that the unity of the children of Israel would be maintained until the arrival of the real leader and holder of affairs, namely, the one who was able to change the evil with strength, without causing an evil that was more devastating than the evil that was denied. This is a wise balancing act, even though what is being denied is a sin of the highest order, namely, the worship of a calf other than Allah, the Almighty. This story, and all the evidence it contains, happened to a prophet sent by Allah. It would be nice if the youth of this ummah would pay attention to the wisdom in it, which is in the form of lessons and proofs that they desperately need at a time when the scales of understanding are in a state of disrepair. As for the haste of the youth, it is based on mere appearances that neglect to consider the consequences. There remains the question, wouldn't being patient in this case make the ruler continue to do evil? The answer to this question is that the patience referred to in the hadith applies specifically to cases of injustice, favoritism, and denial of rights to the people. But in the case of bringing legal charges in all their forms against the ruler or his aides, the field is wide open, and the door to that is wide open. Bringing an indictment is the highest level of jihad, and positive change is to be expected from it, provided that the intentions are good and the aim is only to seek the pleasure of Allah. Had this method not produced such blessed results, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, would not have advised it and would not have elevated its practitioners to the highest rank among the martyrs. This is the face of the wisdom of the prophets choosing this path, and not any other. No one understands it except those who are intelligent and knowledgeable. D. Fitna Shubhat. The Shubhat fitna is the second side of the fitna. What is meant by it is everything that revolves around the apostolic mission, the one who sent the messenger, and the promise of the hereafter. It is a fitna of doubt that leaves a Muslim in confusion in dealing with his affairs. Not to mention the mixing of truth versus falsehood in the details of the message, along with the reality of the Muslims. This fitna is so devastating that a Muslim cannot clearly recognize the face of truth in the problems that confront him. From this point of view, it can be said that the fitna shubhat is very harmful to the heart of a Muslim. Allah, the Almighty, says, "Or it is like the deep darkness of the sea, which is overwhelmed by waves, over which are clouds of deep darkness overlapping. When he puts out his hand, he cannot see. And whoever Allah does not give light to, has no light at all." And Nur 40. We say, this verse contains an indication of the fitna shubhat that people can fall into. A clear description of it is given in this verse. The person who falls into these falsehoods is similar to a person who is drowning in a deep and wide sea, being slapped by waves and rolled by powerful waves, with darkness piled up to the extent that the drowning person is unable to see his own hand because of the darkness. A person who cannot see his own hand, even though it is one of his limbs, then how will he be able to see the way of salvation? This verse also informs us that the one who seeks light from other than the light of Allah, the Almighty, is like this. Whoever wants to be saved, then there is no way for him except to take light with the light of Allah. And the light of Allah on earth is His book and the sunnah of His Prophet. Ibn Qayyim said, "Those who are likened to those who know the truth and guidance, but prefer the darkness of injustice and misguidance. So that the darkness of character, the darkness of the soul, and the darkness of ignorance are piled upon them. Because they do not put their knowledge into practice, so they become ignorant people, as well as the darkness of following misguidance and lust. So their state is like that of a person who is in a vast and deep sea, shoreless, covered with waves, on top of which there are more waves, then above them are dark clouds." At Tafsir al-Qayyim. This verse is the most appropriate simile for the fitna shubhat. As for a detailed explanation of this fitna, I believe that it should be limited to two subjects, which are as follows. 1. Fitna is like a dark slice of the night. A number of hadiths that speak of fitna inform us that there is a type of fitna that looks like a pitch-black night. This type of fitna can be included in the chapter on lust or shubhat, and it can even be included in both. However, I'm more inclined to include it under fitna shubhat, because I think that is more appropriate. The truth is that shubhat is essentially blinding the eyes of the believer's heart, making him confused in his affairs, and making him unable to see clearly the path to the hereafter. This is consistent with the characterization of this fitna as a piece of pitch-black night. Indeed, the one who falls into it is prevented from seeing his affairs in reality, just as the one who walks in the pitch-black night is prevented from seeing the path on which he is traveling. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Woe to the Arabs, because evil is approaching. The fitna are like pieces of pitch-black night. A person goes through the morning as a believer, but he enters the afternoon as a disbeliever. A people sell their din for a little of the treasures of the world. One who clings to his religion at that time is like one who holds a burning ember, or he said, like a man holding a thorn." Sahih Muslim al-Iman, Hadith No. 118. We say, this hadith indicates the imminence of the fitna, the nature of which has been described, that is, the fitna is like a dark patch of night, since the time of the companions. The hadith also indicates that the majority of the people who will experience its destruction will be Arabs. Hence, the threat to them is specific. The threat of these fitna is hidden among the obscurity of truth from falsehood. That is why the one who falls into its pit can no longer keep his faith, either with his tongue or with his weapon, even for half a day. Everyone, without exception, is caught in a state of vacillation between faith and disbelief. That is, he goes through the morning as a believer, but the evening does not come to greet him unless he has gone from the rope of faith to the circle of disbelief. One of the many reasons why a Muslim falls into the circle of disbelief, as stated in the hadiths, is that in the morning he still considers the blood of his fellow Muslim to be protected. Then he falls into a doubt that makes him consider his blood, property, or honor lawful. It is well known that the act of accusing a Muslim of being a disbeliever will return to one of the two, the accuser or the accused. Fighting a Muslim or making it lawful for his blood to be shed is also kufr, as a number of hadiths make clear. This is kufr if the Muslim fights another Muslim without believing that the blood of the fought one is lawful to be shed. If this is not the case, then the perpetrator falls into kufr of belief if he believes that the blood of his fellow Muslim is lawful to shed. This hadith also indicates how strong the control of this world and the grip of lust were in the hearts of the people of that time. So much so that the possessions of this world, even a little bit of it, had such a deceptive power over their hearts that it turned them away from the religion of Allah, the Almighty. That is why religion and faith were sold and exchanged for the cheapest price, and at a loss. There is also a hint in this hadith that these fitna will specifically bring out a large group of people who seek the treasures of this world, and that the treasures of this world and its pleasures will be the standard of dignity for them. The helpers of the truth are very few in number at that time. Therefore, it is very difficult for a Muslim to keep his religion firm in his heart and behavior, so that the one who holds his religion firmly is like a person holding a burning coal, or holding a thorn, even though both are bitter and painful. The reason for this is that those who are still firm in their faith at that time will be confronted by a wave of apostasy that washes over them and sweeps them away from their surroundings, removing the principles of faith that they hold dear. This will not happen unless the majority of people are truly weak in their religion and faith. This hadith and others like it are one of the many proofs of the prophethood of Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, because these fitna have actually occurred and are rampant. Whoever observes the history of the Muslim Ummah, the trials of the Karamids and Bathinids in general, as well as the Fatimids and Nushairis, and some of the trials of the Abbasids and their wars against the rulers they replaced, as well as the trials of the Umayyads such as the tragedies of Al-Hara, Karbala and others, will see clear evidence of the truth of the words of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. These fitnas continue to take place with great fierceness. Perhaps in our own time is much clearer the parties involved and the causes than in previous times. Verily, before the day of judgment, there will be many fitna like pieces of dark night. A person enters the morning as a believer, then he enters the afternoon as a disbeliever, or he enters the morning as a believer, then he enters the evening as a disbeliever. Many people sell their share with the cheap treasures of the world, or with the treasures of the world. Hasan al-Basri said, by Allah, indeed, we see them as images, statues without reason, bodies without ideals, butterflies of fire and flies of greed. They leave in the morning with 2 dirhams, and return in the afternoon with 2 dirhams. One of them sells his religion for the price of a she-goat. Ahmad, Musnad al-Kufiyin, Hadith, No. 18434. We say, may Allah have mercy on Hasan al-Basri. Indeed, in his time it happened that religion was sold for the price of a she-goat. As for our times today, religion is sold without any price at all. Some people even sell their religion for the sake of other people's worldly interests. Sometimes this lowly act does not produce anything, even for the price of a she-goat. Such is the trade that is very loss-making. The worst of people is the one who sells the glory of his religion for the world, as explained by a number of Atsar. Abu Musa radiyallahu anhu reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, verily, there are many fitna before you, like pieces of dark night. A person enters the morning as a believer,